Hi everyone. I was reading this report that talks about Super El Niño in 2026. Now, when it comes to Super El Niño, we'll be talking about the global climate disruption that it will lead to and also the vulnerabilities that are there in India. So this is again very important topic when it comes to your UPSC because it directly connects to your prelims. So we have seen in the previous years that various times El Nino Modoki, and even for the Walker cell, the question had been asked. At the same time, it also connects mains GS paper 1, that is the geography as well as the physical and the climatic characteristics of the El Nino. It also connects with your GS paper 3 as well, and also with the essay and the ethics theme. So again, this is very important topic that we'll be discussing in this complete session. Along with me, my name is Bhavar Singh Surya. I'm XNDA 115th course and qualified civil services in 2012. So over here, these are the three reports that I was talking to you about. Now, when it comes to the first report, that is by ECMWF or European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast. And this report, it says that the latest forecast shows high probability of Super El Nino developing by summer or autumn 2026. And it could be among the strongest on the record. The second report is by the Carbon Brief, which is UK-based, magazine and organization. So its report, it says that the Nino 3.4, I'll tell you what Nino 3.4 region is. So Nino 3.4 region is warming by 2.2 degrees Celsius by September 2026. And this is firmly where we talk about the Super El Nino phenomena. So I'll be telling you what Super El Nino phenomena is, but right now just have this in your mind that if the temperature exceeds 2 degrees Celsius mark, so then it is termed as Super El Nino. Then by the World Meteorological Organization, there had been alert, and it says that El Nino is expected by boreal summer, that is between June to September. Models have warned that there will be above normal land surface temperatures nearly everywhere. So again, when it comes to UPSC, so it is very important that we may see 2026, that will be the warmest year of the warmest year that will be there. It will surpass the previous records as well. And this is basically by the reports that I have gone through. And it says that in 2026, we have already surpassed the 1.3 degrees Celsius that is above the pre-industrial levels. So again, this would be warmest year, and along with the El Nino that will hit the Pacific. So this would be a kind of phenomena or a kind of year that we do not want. But at the same time, we will see that how the India will respond to it and what are the arrangements that India has in place. Now, when it comes to El Nino and La Nina, what are these? So these are basically, changes in the sea surface temperatures that happens in the Pacific Ocean. Now, normally what happens is that there is the equatorial current. All right, the equatorial current, it is moving from the coast of Peru towards Australia or towards the west of Pacific. Now, what happens is, as the equatorial current is moving, this is because of the trade winds, and ultimately what happens is that it pulls the warm waters towards the shore of the western Pacific, and here the temperature rises. We have more of temperature normally in the West Pacific as compared to the East Pacific region. We have low temperature. So this is called as La Nina. But at the same time, when this reverses, so what happens is when the trade winds, they get weakened, so that reverses the complete cycle in the Pacific Ocean. And now what happens is that there is a counter-equatorial current that starts moving, and it is moving towards the coast of Peru. All right, now what happens is that this high temperature starts building up towards the east of Pacific, and that is what we call as El Nino. This is known as El Nino. I told you that there are different regions when it comes to the Pacific region. This is Nino 1 and 2. This is Nino 3. Then this is Nino 4. And in between, it is the Central Pacific that you can see over here. This is the region that is termed as Nino 3.4 that was mentioned in the news. Now, there is Walker circulation. Now, this Walker circulation is basically the atmospheric circulation that you will see. Now, what happens is that there is, in the neutral conditions, there are trade winds. All right, we have trade winds which moves. All right, now this trade winds, when it comes towards the coast of or towards the west of the Pacific, so what happens is because of the higher temperature higher temperature in the region, so these starts to rise above. When they rise above, they move into the different direction, and thus then they cool down and they come down. So this complete, this complete circulation is called as the Walker circulation. Now, one impact of this Walker circulation is that you will see that there are diverging branches in the upper air circulation. Now, this upper air branch, it becomes the easterly jet stream for India. All right, this easterly jet stream is quite important for monsoon, because when it cools down, it moves downwards, and over here in the Arabian Sea region, it creates high pressure that is important for the monsoon, the start of the monsoons. All right, at the same time, when it comes to the El Nino, so in El Nino, you'll see that the complete pattern reverses, because now the temperature is high towards the east of Pacific. All right, so over here, what happens is trade winds gets weakened. Now the air is rising up or above from the east of Pacific, and it has reversed the complete Walker circulation. And again, this is the reason why we face drought-like conditions in India, because in the reverse condition, you will see over here that when it comes to the Arabian Sea, we do not have high pressure, but it is the low pressure that gets generated. And that is the major reason why we have the drought-like conditions. So now these things are very important for your prelims. I have told you, when it comes to ENSO, ENSO is El Nino Southern Oscillation, and it recurs after every 2 to 7 years in the tropical Pacific. That is the shift in the complete, or the reversal in the complete dynamics of the Pacific Ocean. Then in the normal state, what happens is trade winds, they push the warm water towards west because of the equatorial current, and there is cold upwelling of the Peruvian coast. At the same time, in El Nino, what happens is that there is weakening of the trade winds, and that leads to warm water that starts building up either in the Central Ocean, Central Pacific Ocean, or towards the east coast of the Pacific. All right, now this is when it is there in the central. So this is what we term as El Nino Modoki. All right, please remember, this is called as El Nino Modoki. It is a modification that had been seen in the El Nino pattern. All right, at the same time, there is Super El Nino. Now, what is Super El Nino? If the sea surface temperature that rises above 2 degrees Celsius in Nino 3.4 region, so that is what is termed as Super El Nino, and that had occurred in 1982-83, along with this in 97-98, and even in 2015-16. And Walker cell, it is the disrupted atmospheric circulation that happens because of the El Nino, and there are total, we have when it comes to the disruption is not just in India, but we see that El Nino and La Nina, they impact the complete globe as well. I'll tell you how. All right. At the same time, we have ONI, that is Oceanic Nino Index, and if it is greater than or equal to 0.5 degrees Celsius, it is El Nino. If it is greater or equal to 1.5 degrees Celsius, then we have strong El Nino. And if it raises beyond 2 degrees Celsius, so then El Nino is termed as Super El Nino. So over here, you can see that what happens, or what is the sea surface temperature anomaly and how it connects with the Indian monsoon. So if we have La Nina, the sea surface temperature is less than minus 0.5 degrees Celsius, all right, from its normal. And ultimately, that leads to high or above normal monsoon in India. If we have neutral phases, so over here, the change will be from minus 0.5 to plus 0.5 degrees Celsius. There will be normal rainfall in India. If there is El Nino, so that is that where we have the sea surface temperature, they rises more than 0.5 degrees Celsius, and that leads to below normal rainfall in India. In case of strong El Nino, there is drought risk, and in case of Super El Nino, there is a severe risk that we may see in India. So again, when it comes to the global disruptions of the supply chain because of the West Asian crisis, along with El Nino, that will have a greater development or greater implication for Indian scenario as well. So as per this report, there is the 2.2 degrees Celsius, that is the forecast by 2026 by the Carbon Brief. At the same time, there had been 637 models which had been run from 13 global modeling groups which have led to this prediction, and there is 19% chance that 2026 it will surpass 2024 as the warmest year, and 2026 is 2027. It will be the highest risk year for the warmest year on the record because of the development of Super El Niño in the case of, because it will be developing near the end of 2026. So the situation, it may remain there till 2027. All right, so this is how this has happened. All right, when it comes to the El Nino or ENSO phase, in 2020-22, we had triple dip La Nina. That is 3 years. For the complete 3 years, we had La Nina phase. That is very rare. But again, this has led to above normal monsoons in India. From 2023 to 24, there was strong El Nino and the global temperatures, they increased. The global temperatures increased, as well as 2024 became the warmest year on the record as well, with the temperature that have risen to more than 1.53 degrees Celsius. Then in January-March 2026, there is weak La Nina to the neutral phase that has built up in the Pacific, and in May to September, this is the prediction that there will be El Nino that will develop, and from September 2026, we may see that there is potential for the Super El Nino that will be there in this region. Now, it will impact India. All right, it will impact India. Along with this, it will impact the globe as well. Now, when it comes to the impact, it is not just about the monsoon and the water. All right, there will be weakened southwest monsoon that will lead to below normal rainfall, and we have seen this in 2002 and 2009, along with this in 2014 and 15 as well, which were drought years because of El Nino. At the same time, there will be, when it comes to the agriculture in the country, so we have 50% of the land that is cultivated, that is rain-fed. So there is direct agriculture stress that will build up in India. When it comes to the groundwater, so there is or there will be recharge deficits that will lead to a water crisis in India as well. And the positive IOD or Indian Ocean Dipole, it can weaken the impact of the El Nino. All right, and it may partially offset the El Nino that we have seen in 1997, where we had the strong El Nino, but at the same time, it did not impacted the monsoon that much. Now, when it comes to agriculture, there are the risk of the Kharif crop failure. Right? For example, we have rice, we have maize, we have oilseed, pulses. They will be the most vulnerable because they depend upon the southwest monsoon. At the same time, El Nino years, we have seen in the history that the Kharif output have dropped by 3 to 16% in India. All right, there will be cascading impact as well. Because of the failure of the crop, there will be pressures that will be there for the MSP procurements. All right, there will be the PDS stress as well, that is public distribution system, and the food inflation may rise because of the less supply of the food grains. All right, most of the farmers in India, they are monsoon dependent. So ultimately their rural income, there will be a shock, and that will lead to consumption crash. And thereby it will have impact on the economy. There will be food inflation that because of the lesser supply. At the same time, the weak monsoon, it will reduce the hydropower generation as well in our country, because there will be less of the water that will be available in the rivers. And also the rural demand will contract because of this. All right, because of this, there will be contraction in the demand, because the real wage, they will drop for the agricultural farmers, and ultimately there will be slowdown that we will see in FMCG, in the tractor and two-wheeler sectors as well. Now, we have seen even 1% monsoon deficit has a significant agriculture GDP stress that had been seen in India. When it comes to the health and society, that will be impacted also, because when it comes to the rising temperature, there will be extreme heat waves, and that may lead to heat stroke, and the mortality, it may increase. At the same time, droughts will lead to malnutrition, all right, because of the failure of the crops. That may lead to malnutrition, anemia, and also stunting in the rural children. There will be water scarcity that may lead to the problems with sanitation failure, and ultimately there could be the vector-borne diseases as well that we have to see. And also migration patterns will be there, because we will see that the distance migration will be from the drought-prone regions that will be hit by the El Nino. All right, now what is the response that Indian government has, or what are the pillars of the administrative reform that we have in India? So the first one is that there is deployment of impact-based forecasting and strict color-coded alerts which are issued by IMD or Indian Meteorological Department. We have yellow alerts, orange and red alerts as well, so that there is immediate municipal action required for any kind of extreme weather crisis that we have in India. The second thing is the heat action plans, which are pioneered by Ahmedabad, and also decentralized municipal models are there, which focuses on the early warning along with altered work hours and also establishing widespread cooling shelters in the city. Then there is Jal Shakti Abhiyan as well, which is aggressive administrative push for the decentralized water conservation, strategic aquifer recharge and also rainwater harvesting to build hydrological buffers in the region. And then there is also we have the expanded the targeting micro irrigation networks and per drop more crop, so that we can drastically reduce the absolute agriculture dependency on the southwest monsoon through the PMKSY integration. All right, and also then we have the NICRA initiative as well, that is an ICAR-led project developing comprehensive climate smart villages and specifically engineered drought-resistant or tolerant crop varieties for the vulnerable regions or the drought-prone regions. Now, this complete crisis, it will not just impact India, but it will, or the impact will be seen over whole of the globe. Like for example, in America, you will see that in Central America, there will be extreme drought. In the southwest of US, you will see that there will be heat and drought along with South American Pacific coast, specifically the Peruvian coast, they will see the flood and erosion risk. Then when it comes to Africa, the East Africa, there would be flooding. The Southern Africa, there would be drought and food crisis. And in the Sahel region, there will be erratic rainfall. And that will increase the conflict risk as well. In the South and the Southeast Asia, in Australia, there would be condition of drought. And Australia, because it lies in the Southern Hemisphere, and when there is perihelion, that is the Earth is closer to the Sun. So during that period in January, they are going through their summer season. So of course, the summers in Australia, they are very hard, and ultimately because of the drought, because of the temperature, there will be bushfires that will be there in Australia. In Southeast Asia, there will be reduced rainfall, and along with this, there will be forest fires that we will see in the upcoming months. All right. At the same time, when it comes to oceans, there will be increased coral bleaching because of the increasing of the temperature. And then again, it poses a great risk for the coral colonies. Like for example, we have Great Barrier Reef, and also there will be suppression of the hurricanes in Atlantic Ocean as well. Now, for this 2026, it has been forecasted that it will be the second warmest year, and 2027 is likely to be the warmest if there will be the Super El Niño that will be there. All right. At the same time, the climate regime will shift. There will be sudden and persistent biome changes, and also the Arctic, the ice that is melting, that may get amplified because of this complete. Now, what are the certain limitations as well as the vulnerabilities that we have? So there is the spring predictability barrier, that is the El Niño forecast before April. They are inherently uncertain. And we have seen even before as well that when at certain point of time in the previous years, what had happened was there was the forecast of El Niño, but at the same time, it didn't hit the Pacific. El Niño monsoon is correlated, but again, it is not deterministic. All right, there are other factors as well, because when it comes to Indian Ocean Dipole, that also plays a major role, and we have seen that in 7 El Niño years, 4 droughts were there, and not complete 7 of them, they were drought periods. At the same time, there is also interaction, that is El Niño is linked with the Indian Ocean Dipole, and that complexity makes the sub-seasonal prediction quite unreliable. So we will have to wait till the season hits and we have the onset of the southwest monsoon. At that point of time, what will be the temperatures that will guide that how the southwest monsoon it will appear. At the same time, when it comes to the net sown area in India, we have 50% that is unirrigated. So we are very and highly dependent upon the monsoon, and that is, chronic dependence on the monsoon is unreduced. All right, there is ground depletion as well. According to the GRACE satellite data, 8 states, they are in critical overdraft zone, and crop diversification is quite inadequate. Alright, paddy is dominant in the drought-prone Vidarbha and Marathwada region. And again, this is a kind of vulnerability that we cannot overlook when it comes to the El Nino seasons and its impact. Alright, so what is the way forward? The way forward is that we have to move forward for the adaptive governance for the El Nino Southern Oscillation Resilient India. Alright, the first thing is that there should be ENSO indexed governance that should be there, and IMD forecast they must trigger the policy activation in India. Alright, there should be preposition on the stock that we have for the food grains through the public distribution system, activate the Manrega budget scheme, and also release the seed and fertilizer subsidies as well. Alright, there should be climate smart agriculture where we should scale the drought tolerant varieties which are there. Like for example, we have DRR Dhan 44, Sehbhagi Dhan as well, and also promote millets through the Mission Millets 2023 in rain-fed regions as well. We should incentivize the crop diversification away from the paddy wheat monoculture, and there should be demand-side water reforms as well, where river basin-led integrated water accounting should be introduced in India. We should revise the groundwater extraction norms in El Nino forecast years and make PMKSY drip irrigation that is mandatory for the high water use crops in the drought-related or drought-prone regions. Then also, there should be urban heat action plans where we should extend the heat wave protocols to Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities as well, following the Ahmedabad model, and also integrate El Nino forecast into the NDMA heat action plans. There should be global climate diplomacy where we should push for El Nino responsive climate finance at UNFCCC and operationalize loss and damage fund, champion the early warning for all initiative where India can lead the South-South tech sharing as well. And there should be a complete investment that India should make in its own coupled ocean temperature or ocean atmospheric model, and we should improve the IOD prediction as well so that we can counter the impacts of the El Nino that it has on the Indian monsoon. So this complete topic, it does not just relates to one topic, that is climate. It relates to lots of things. El Nino or Super El Nino 2026 is connected to economy and the RBI policy because there would be the inflation that will rise, and ultimately rural demand, it will crash. It relates to heat records because when it comes to the models, the prediction models that had been used, it may be that 2027 could be the warmest year on the record. There is, or it connects to global geopolitics as well because of the conflict, migration and climate financing. It also relates to climate change where we have seen that this had been becoming a compound event. Also, it relates to the ethics and equality because of climate justice as well as the intergenerational thing or the sustainable development that we are moving forward with. And it connects with the monsoon deficit, with the food inflation and disaster management as well. So this topic connects to several different topics. Now, when it comes to, Mahatma Gandhi, so we have seen that Mahatma Gandhi have said that the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. So this is why the 2026 Super El Nino, it is not just a weather event. It is a question that we must ask about the intergenerational justice as well. Our response today, it determines the climate burden that our children will have in the future. So that would be all in this video, but at the same time, do not forget that we are offering you with 50% off as well as double validity at or on all the courses of that are there on StudyIQ platform. Alright, all UPSC courses, they are up for the grab right now, and you can use the code BRS Live. Now, let me tell you, I have earlier also spoken that this is a limited period offer and it is only available till 30th of April. Alright, so if you'll enroll before 30th of April and use the code BRS Live, so you will be able to get 50% off along with double validity that will be there. So these are the two important courses. We have GS Foundation Resolution P2I batch for 2027 and for 2028 as well. Now the batches have started from 27th of April, so you can enroll into them and you can start learning and preparing for your UPSC dream. So that would be all, but do not forget to share this video with your friends as well as leave a like if you have gotten a complete idea about what Super El Nino is and also how El Nino impacts the Indian weather and monsoon system. So that would be all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Jai Hind. Do not forget to subscribe so that you do not miss any of the updates in the future. Thank you and Jai Hind.